Hello everyone, Reza here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going on a little journey together, from installing Character Creator 5 through Reallusion Hub all the way to exploring its user interface, tools, and few pro tips to help you get started like a seasoned artist. As a bonus, I will also show you how to tweak and refine your character's facial expression all inside Character Creator 5. So whether you're brand new to this application or just brushing up on the latest features, stick around. Let's jump right in. Alright, before we even open Character Creator 5, let's talk about where it lives. You don't download CC5 directly. Well, you can, but instead everything Reallusion makes, like iClone, Headshot, Skin Gen, and Character Creator, is managed through this small but mighty launcher called Reallusion Hub. Think of the hub as your control tower. From here, you can install and update and manage all in one place, just like Adobe Creative Cloud or Epic Games Launcher. So you log in with your account and you click on free download. Once you run or execute the download, then you'll be greeted with this window. The top row is the products. You can see I have iClone and Character Creator 5, which is your hub for digital humans. From here, you can update, or I can open the application here. I can go to the home page, which is this one right here, and I can look at the manuals, release notes, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and hit open. This application is built for both animation and real-time rendering pipeline. And what makes it powerful is how it connects seamlessly to other apps like iClone, like Unreal Engine, Unity, and even ZBrush through Gozi. You can create, you can sculpt, texture, create clothes, poses, and even export animation all in one app. Some artists use it just for character prototyping, which is quite common, while others go all in with production-ready digital humans that you can drop straight into Unreal Engine or Blender with full rigs and facial blend shapes. It's really magic once you understand what's going on and how to operate with this application. Here I am inside CC5. I believe the best place to start to bring something into the scene is to start with content. You can see that I have two separate spaces in here, and this space even has been divided into two different sections. But let's start decoding this content panel since it looks a bit too crowded. So this content panel that you see on the left side is your asset library. Everything you've installed, base characters, clothing, hairstyle, they all live here. You either have access to asset packs, and they are grouped together because they are related. For example, CC5 characters. If I double click on it, I know that I'm dealing with characters and characters only. Some of them are CC5, you can see HD in front of them. Some of them are CC3 plus, meaning that they are compatible with CC5, but they're not HD. Once you select and go into a pack, you see the thumbnail of that pack here, you can exit that. And that is the case for all of these guys. I'm in a different pack, HD Human Anatomy set, and I can just exit that. Now, these packs need to be installed, and I installed them ahead of time. How to install them? You right click on them, you go install content. In my case, you can uninstall the content. For example, if I scroll down, I want to see casual 20 accessories. I can right click on it and install the content. It starts downloading the content. If you wish to see the progress of your download, you can again right click on it, view installing lists. And yes, you can download multiple items at the same time, and it places them in the queue, and you can monitor the progress here. What about this panel though? What this one is doing while this is downloading? The cool thing about that is anything that you're not have is grayscale, and as soon as you start downloading, it's going to colorize the thumbnail. Well, the left-hand side is pretty much what you see in the right-hand side, but in a slightly different structure and category. You can see I have project, actors, actor mixer, skin. So everything related is again in a separate group, not in a package bundle like this one. I can go into actor and only focus on actors. And funny thing is, as soon as I navigate, look what's happening on the top row. All of these buttons are corresponding to each one of these categories. So as you can see, I'm toggling and going back and forth between these categories, and this one also switches. It means that this is another way of accessing the content here. So if I go into actor, I'm now in actor, and if I go into character, I'm now enabling the first tab, which is the character, and I can toggle back and forth and look into each folder this way instead. So that's fairly straightforward. You have the filtering system where you can go and look at your installed packages, the ones that needs updating or not installed, by file name, by tags, or folder name. So very, very straightforward stuff here. Let's go ahead into character, CC5 character, and let's bring in one of these guys. For example, let's bring this CC5 neutral character. Let's bring that in. And now we have something to see. It's the best time to talk about the layout and the most fundamental things like navigation, because up to this point we didn't have anything into the scene, and it was a bit difficult to talk about navigation if your scene is empty. So to talk about navigation, let's go into Edit and Preferences. And the first thing that I usually do is change the preset from iClone to either Blender or Maya. I'm not a 3D Max person. It's been 10 years that I haven't touched Motion Builder. So I'm going to set that to Maya, and all of a sudden everything changes to Maya in terms of navigation. So to pan, Alt, middle mouse button, it's going to pan, orbit around, Alt, left mouse button, as you can see, and to rotate, it's your choice. You can go ahead and set Control middle mouse button, zoom, Alt right mouse button. As you can see, Alt right mouse button is going to zoom just fine. So fairly straightforward. While I have you in the preference, let's actually scroll down. You can show the grid if you want on the bottom of the character, change the color of the grid, and change the units, make it finer or bigger. You can have the information, frame per second if you have animation, number of triangles if you have too many assets, great for troubleshooting, how much VRAM, RAM, and CPU you're using, and object height. So it gives you a little bit of information of the character that you're bringing in. Then you have world axis. So if I zoom back at the bottom, I should be able to see the axis X, Y, and Z. By the way, that is just show grid in case if you are curious. Now I'm going to scroll down into real-time render options, set the quality to high, and if, only if, your computer allows max texture size to 4K, so it allows you to see things clearly and with higher quality. Under projects, you can localize where you save your projects. Nothing too important that you need to know right now for the rest of these rollouts on their preferences, so we are going to skip that. One last thing is the unit, that if you want a unit display to be CM, it's your time to go ahead and change it. I'm going to turn off info. I'm going to leave world axis on, just old habit of mine. Now, as soon as you bring something in here, some of these icons on the toolbar will light up. So these are your quick access tools, things like transform, camera tools, snapping options, and content and modify panel toggles. So you can see we have new open save, exporting as obj fbx usd, exporting into other software packages like ZBrush, undo redo, your selection, your move and rotate, and scale, which on the keyboard, just like Maya, it's Q, W for move, E for rotation, R for scale. Then you can isolate an item if you want. In here you can zoom, pan, and orbit. And in here you can view all if you have isolated anything. The quality, high resolution. You can add an auxiliary light here, and you can see all of your channels. So I can go and just look at the world normal. These are the maps that you can modify. So that's your chance to have a look at it and analyze it, see if it needs changing. If I go into modify and look at subdivision, you can see the subdivision level is 1 in the viewport and 2 when you render it. You can go ahead and increase that in the viewport, and you will be seeing that in here. You can see I have 3 subdivisions, 0, 1, 2, and the second one corresponds to the rendering. You can pick what you want to see in the viewport. Then you have global illumination controls in the viewport and in the render, and some effects including rigid body and soft body, animation player, which you can see is opening up here, and turntable. You can just perform turntable. As soon as I click that, the modify panel is going to customize itself to cater for turntabling or exporting a turntable from your character. If I select the character, I'm going back to where I was. That turntable button is also available on the bottom right of my animation player. Many of these characters, when you bring them in, they have animation. So I can press play. I can go into motion, mail, and switch to another animation. And while it's turntabling, you can see I have basically the animation as well ready to go. I can change or speed up the character. As I said, you can add animation or remove the animation. And these set of buttons, this removes the animation player, make it a floating window. I can snap back. This is going to create your turntable. I'm going to deactivate it, so I'm not going to see that here. When I play, you can see the turntable is gone, and this one is going to lock your pose. Very simple stuff. So in this chapter, we talked about the content. We talked about the modify a little bit. We are going to talk a lot more about this incredible window right here with multiple tabs, as you can see. And we talked about the toolbar. That is going to be enough for one. Let's go to the next chapter and explore more content like this. In the previous chapter, we talked about content and modify. In this chapter, we are going to talk about our command center of our entire project, the Scene Manager. You can go into Windows and make sure Scene Manager is enabled. F5 is the hotkey for it. It works very similar to an outliner in Maya or a hierarchy panel in Unity or World Outliner in Unreal Engine. So right under content, if you are using workspace and standard, it's usually right next to the content. It's called scene. In here, you can see we have only one element, and this is my character. But at the same time, we have a camera to preview what we're seeing here, and we also have lights, obviously. So you can see that individual elements for the character is here, so we can turn them on and off, eyelashes and brows, and the actual character is here as well. Apart from that, we don't have really much props. Turntable is there where we can activate it again, and shadow catcher is there in case if we want to cast shadow on a surface. Right now this character is not on a floor or any type of ground, so changing that doesn't make much difference. But we also have lights, and that's a great place to tweak or add your lights. But right now, if I zoom back, I'm not really seeing any light shapes, so I can select them and translate them and rotate them and tweak them. The reason that I can't select them because the shape of the light has been deactivated. Not the actual light, but the shape. The way to bring the shape or show the shape is to sort of click on it. Now you can actually see the gizmo. I can go and press W on my keyboard or select the move tool, and I can sort of move this up and down and have an impact on my scene. I can lock it if I want to. I can go in there and completely deactivate it. So this is on and off button if I want to. That includes shadow, or you can disable the shadow. For example, let me just zoom in on the face. Perhaps you can see. So this top down light is causing some shadows under the chin. I can turn it off and on. I can change the color. So if I change that to a very distinctive color like green, you can immediately see what's happening. I can cancel at any point of time. And if I press OK, the change would be permanent and you undo. And this is the color of the shadow, which I do not change at any point of time. You can add lights as well. You can go to Create, Light, and let's say add a spotlight. You've got the spotlight here, and you can go ahead and change it. You can double click on the spotlight, name it whatever you want to name it, and change its color and manage its contribution. I don't need it, so I'm going to right click and delete. So very, very useful. Scene Manager is the one that I keep an eye on to manage the scene, to toggle visibility, select, hide, lock, or rename objects. Extremely useful, including all the clothing that you may have for your character. That's one tab that is useful. Another tab that I would like to get to is Visual. So you have 5 tabs in general. The first one looks after ambient occlusion and your bloom degree. So if I go in here and let's say enable ambient occlusion, you can change the strength of ambient occlusion. You can see on the side of the arms how ambient occlusion changes. You can change the range, sharpness, and bias. You can have an impact on the bloom. So I can increase the bloom, nothing changes, but if I reduce the brightness threshold, you can see that I'm really drastically changing the bloom. 75 and 4 are the defaults. You can enable glare, and you can bring in image-based lighting as the source of your indirect light. So all I need to do is to enable this and go ahead, and in the HDRI, I can pick something that I want, and the overall color tone changes based upon the image that I have. If you make a decision that is not the one that you wanted, you can either delete the image or turn off GI, global illumination, indirect light, to deactivate it. So that's that. If I go to the next one, it's all about shadows. Not the type of shadows that is casting on the ground, because again, we don't have the ground, but even self-shadowing, you can see how you can turn it on and off. The next one is Toon Shader, which we are not going to get to, definitely not in this session because it's a very specific topic, but you can go in there and basically create a Toon Shader, change the width and intensity of the lines for that character and come up with some very stylized creative looks. I'm going to turn it off. Next one is motion blur. We're not talking about animation, so we're not going to jump ahead, but rest assured, you can go in there and enable motion blur and add that to your animation if and only if you want to export directly from Character Creator 5. Some people prefer to prep the character and the animation and bring it into other software packages. It's something that is up to you. I'm going to turn it off. And the last one is global illumination, something that we talked about briefly. We have those buttons in here to enable and disable global illumination. But if you want to have access to its attributes, you can go in there and change the degree of global illumination. For example, I can make this guy self-illuminated almost. So changing the bounce strength, change the shadow bias, or I can completely turn it off. And in that case, this button is also going to be turned off. Okay, now we got these two also out of the way and we talked about the modify panel. It's time to talk about morph and how to change the silhouette of your character or any object that you have in the scene. Now let's jump over to the Morph tool, one of the most creative and powerful parts of Character Creator. The Morph button is right next to Modify, where you enable the tool. It doesn't necessarily give you all the attributes and the properties that you can change. I can turn it on, but you can see there's no change to the user interface. One change you notice though, once you start using this morph, as soon as you hover your mouse, you can see parts of the body is going to be highlighted. This means that you can hold left mouse button and drag to left and right to change proportions. I'm not a huge fan of this style because unless you want to create something super duper stylized, it's going to sort of ruin your anatomy because you're just having fun, you're playing around. Unless you're really good at the anatomy and you know what you're doing, that can drastically have an impact on the proportion and the look of your character. I'm going to quickly undo those. The preferred method of mine is to go into this tab, the third tab on my modify. Well, to start with, it's always great if you could install HD Ultimate Morphs. It gives you extra morph sliders so you can actually change the anatomy of your character if you aim for realism, even stylized. There will be some presets that you can benefit from. You can simply right click and install it. You can see I've already installed this bundle. Now, if I go in there, you immediately notice that I have a category full of presets that I can work with. These are the list of all the characters. If you just want to focus on Aaron, you go currently use, because what we are currently using is Aaron. So right now, if I turn off Morph, select the character and press Alt-2, I'm not dealing with a good amount of resolution. I can quadruple this by increasing to subdivision by only one level. We already discussed where to find it, and that is in the first tab and under sub D levels. You can see when you render, you actually do see the smooth silhouette, but during your work in the viewport, you still see 1. If I switch that to 2, you can see I have now a far better density to work with. That is a lot better when you're dealing with morphs. I'm going to press Alt-2 again to switch back to shaded, not wireframe unshaded, and start exploring. I'm going to stay in currently used, but of course you can kind of explore and see what is available for some other characters. But from here, you can see I can go into the face, change the chin ever so slightly, or move that out. That kind of defines the jawline. You can go ahead and change the ears. And if you really like this, you can always favorite it, and it's going to show up in the favorite category. In CC5, we have two brand new categories, HD body and HD head, and these are incredible. If I go to HD body and search for HD athletic, I should be able to get some really cool presets to change this character into a muscular one. For example, I can go and ever so slightly redefine the abs, and with the subdivision set to 2, I can see really good result. I can go in there and change the silhouette of the arm as well. Just going to zoom back ever so slightly so you can see how it changes the volume for me. I can go to the back of the character and give it some definition. You have a slider to change all of this and make the character bulkier, but be very careful. I tend not to bring that all the way up because then you will be getting some really odd results. I can go in there and redefine calves like so, just to have a better volume. I noticed that it's really easy to get out of control if you're not careful, but it's a great starting point where artistic freedom meets precision, and you can refine proportions, you can correct your anatomy and exaggerate your style if you want, all inside CC5 without jumping into ZBrush, Maya, or Blender. If morphs define your shape, materials define your look. This is where you control how the character's skin, clothing, and every surface in your scene reacts to light, reflection, and color. Basically, this material panel is the realism layer. Where to find it? Well, you'll find the material tab inside the modify panel on the right-hand side of the user interface. To access, you can select any object, then go into Modify panel and switch to Material tab. In CC5, all the materials follow the PBR or physically based rendering workflow. This means that if I scroll down into texture settings, we have certain channels that you can export as texture. If I scroll all the way up, we have the material elements section, and each section, each part of the body gets a separate material. You can hold down Control, click to select multiple materials, tweak roughness, or edit all skin zones together. Just a quick breakdown in case if you're not familiar with these channels. The base color controls the visible color of your surface, the paint, the fabric, or the skin tone. It's not just that, this is under texture settings. If I scroll down under shader settings, not only you get separate maps for transmission, subsurface scattering, and macro normals, you can actually go ahead and change the parameters and the properties, the physical properties of each channel. For example, if I go into skin color, activate skin color, and in color adjustment, I can activate that, pick one of these presets, or I pick something and change the illumination of it. So you can see you have full control over your base color or albedo. You have obviously normal map that gives you surface macro details. The actual normal map is in the texture settings, and the macro details or macro normals is under shader settings. Word of advice, always use neutral lighting when you adjust your base color. HDRI lights can make it look warmer or cooler, which is not really good when you try to figure out the right texture and the luminosity of that texture. Then we have the roughness map. This controls how shiny or matte the surface is. Just a quick tip about roughness. For realistic skin, keep roughness varied. Don't make it too smooth, otherwise the face looks like plastic. And last but not least, we have metallic, which is used for metal materials like jewelry or armor. We don't have that for skin and fabric. It usually stays black. If you're bringing a character from other DCCs and they have textures, you can go ahead and relink object textures. If you want to use what you have here and tweak that in other software packages like Photoshop, you can go ahead and save all of your textures, then bring it into Photoshop, change it, then load that back in and relink it to each section and each mesh. So first time exposure for our quick start video, this will suffice so you know where the material panel is located, but definitely more on that in the future tutorials on this channel. Now let's go ahead and add few elements into this character. For example, I can go into eye, HD eyes, and I can pick a different eye color. You can use the materials only, so it only changes the material, but it's going to update everything live on the right hand side. I can do the same thing. I want to add hair, so I'm going to go into hair and add hair. I can go to clothes and drag and drop to have an outfit for our character. Again, the right hand side panel updates itself. You can go ahead and change the strength, or you can go into diffuse color and pick a completely different color for that character. All I need is eyebrows. So under hair, female, I'm going to go ahead and select eyebrows, and gradually but surely we are going to build upon what we have. All right, to wrap things up in this final chapter, we're going to dive into facial expressions and explore how to bring those to life inside Character Creator 5. After that, we're going to take a brief look at how to export your character out to other software packages, or in case if you wish to render it directly from Character Creator 5, and that should give you a solid quick start and should be enough for one tutorial. I've already gone ahead and added some makeup to the character, as you can see, and we're in a good position. I went into the scenes and added some lights as well and customized the intensity and the color of it, and it's time to talk about tools that allow us to change the expression of our character. The first tool is called Edit Facial Tool. You go to Modify, and we have Edit Facial. Control-Shift-F is the hotkey. I'm going to change the layout from standard into preview, so that gives us a little bit of real estate for us to work with. Now, the first tab, muscles. Each main muscle can be selected. You can enable the mirror functionality, so if I select a muscle, the other side is going to be selected. You can erase it this way, or you can erase it by simply clicking on that again. What does this do? Once you select a muscle or part, in this case eyes, you hold down left mouse button and you move that to up and down and left and right, and you can see that part starts moving. If you wish to bring that pose into the default pose, you simply switch to reset to 0. You can focus on multiple parts. For example, I can select that and bring that in to create frown, or move it up to create a surprise look. I can select the chin muscles and pull that down, and it's going to open the mouth to the left and to the right. Because I'm still selecting the brows, those are going to move as well. So be careful what you're selecting. If you want to just isolate one area, you can just erase, reset to 0, and start fresh. Now, apart from this, you can go ahead and really focus on certain areas. For example, you can select the chin again, open the mouth, and then go in here and start changing a few things. Try to mimic some facial expression. It's always good if you can sort of layer things on top of each other and not to try to hit that pose using only one slider. With the eyes, you can go in there. You have control over eyelashes. You can even have control over the pupils. And finally, you have control over mouth as well. So if I go ahead and select a few muscles, pull that mouth down so we can open the mouth, you can control the tongue as well. And that allows you to, again, hit the pose that you want. And if you try to lip sync, that is going to be huge help. Now, that should do it for Edit Facial Tool. In a nutshell, it's a space where you control, test, and refine your character's facial rig. I guess that's my cue to move on to the next tool that we have available, and that tool is a plugin. And to do that, and to have that, we need to go to Reallusion Hub and install that free plugin. That plugin is called HD Face Control. As you can see, it's free. Compatibility is CC5 version 1 at the time of the recording. Once you install that plugin, you can find it under Plugin, HD Face Control, and Open HD Face Control. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space. That occupies so much space. If you have a secondary monitor, perhaps it's not a bad idea to drag it there. But by default, you can see it's been turned off. It's not activated, no matter how many times I click on it, because you need to select the character first. Everything will appear. Now, for folks with Unreal Engine experience and MetaHuman experience, this makes total sense. This is, I believe, new in CC5. I don't remember seeing that in CC4, so quite interesting. But, well, you get more controls, so it's going to be slightly more difficult to hit the pose. At the same time, you have accuracy and extra control, so by spending a little bit more time, you can actually enhance the quality. The principles will stay the same. For example, I can select the eye, left mouse button, and move it to left and right. You can see how that changes the expression. I still have reset to 0 or default. I can select the mouth and do the same thing, left and right, up and down, right? And you can see how detailed the face is. It shows us all the wrinkles and deformations on the face. Same goes with the mouth. You can open the mouth. You have extra control for neck stretch, lip tightening, in case if you want to use phonemes. Now, these phonemes are your starting point. They're not going to be final, and this kind of gives you an indication that what each tab does. So if you want to simulate A or E, perhaps this would be a good starting point. A, H, this would be a good starting point, so on and so forth. You can see there are some letters are missing here, simply because in order to get the letter M for the character to pronounce it, you need to have lip tighten controls. So that is, again, the finer controls that I was talking about. Extra controls here to pose the lip and hit the pose or phoneme that you really want to get. Again, try to use blending and stacking as opposed to work on one or two sliders to hit the pose that you want. But again, as you can see, the principles are pretty much the same. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about how to export your final animation, and we are going to wrap up today's tutorial. All right, once you have your animation and your expressions all nailed down, your lights, your materials all ready to go, it's time to export your work. You have two options if you want to export directly from CC5, either through sequence or frames or video. You can certainly do that. You can go to Windows, Workspace, and Final Render, Control 5. And in the render panel, you can select image or video. With image, you have different extensions to choose from, including EXR. The next method, which is my preferred method, is to export this character into other software packages. For example, you can bring this character even without animation into Unreal Engine and retarget it and benefit from it. You can export as USD to bring everything in the scene, just the character or the selected asset. You can include the motion, so character with motion. If you have custom animation, it's time to bring it here using this load button. You can bring that in. Same goes in with FBX, clothed character, selected, or everything. Now I have a dedicated video, I put the link in the description, on how to pick the character and export that into Unreal Engine and fix the rig, get the GUI for the facial rig, and everything should be ready to go. All right, this is it for this tutorial. I tried to keep it focused on the essentials, but as you all know, it's pretty much impossible to cover everything in a single video. So if you would like to see more deep dives or follow-up videos on Character Creator 5, let me know down in the comments. I would love to unpack more for you. You can always follow me on X, Reddit, and Instagram, and thank you again for all of your ongoing support through my Patreon page. Until the next one, see you guys later.